Greetings, everyone. How are you? It's Steve Lookner. With Right Side Broadcasting, we are coming to you tonight with a live update on the Al Franken misconduct allegations story. Been a bunch going on today with it. We want to give you the latest, kind of go over everything that happened with it today, and importantly, give you a chance to comment on it today. We want to hear from you, hear what you think about this story. So we're going to start by going over what happened, and we're going to take your comments. If you want to write in during the broadcast, you can write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that there are not a million black screens in this stream, but if you see a YouTube logo on a black background, it'll go away in a few seconds, so don't worry about it. We apologize. We're trying to get them to fix it. So just so you know, that might happen, but if you see it, just leave it on the air for a few seconds and you'll see their stream will come back again. Thank you so much to the moderators for being with us tonight in the chat rooms. In the YouTube chat, I know JC is there and Real Frank is there. And on the website, we got Common Sense and Gleno. So, and thank you all for being with us. So let's talk about this Al Franken story. Let's talk about it. I think we should start at the beginning. That's what I think we should do. We should start at the beginning and then kind of work our way through. So this story started this morning when LeAnn Tweeden, who is currently, I believe she works at a radio show. I'll tell you the exact thing. I had her Twitter page up, and I'll just show you her Twitter page so you can see it. By the way, thank you. Bad Boy already made a donation. That's very nice of you, Bad Boy. You are not a bad boy for making a donation. Your donations keep us on the air. If you want to donate, you can do what Bad Boy did. Go to the bottom of the YouTube chat and click on the little dollar sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate. We really appreciate it because that's what keeps us on the air. So here is LeAnn Tweeden's Twitter page. You can see she says, wife, mom, sportscaster, model, TV host, news anchor on McIntyre in the Morning, 790 KABC. So that's where she is right now. She's at KABC Radio in LA. She is on the air as a news anchor every day on KABC. Okay, now that that's been taken care of, let's talk about what happened. So this morning, she made a post on the KABC website where she claimed that Al Franken kissed her without her permission in an unwanted way and also groped her. So those two things, and I want to, I won't read the whole article. You can read it at your leisure. I want to read the parts of the article where she actually talks about what she accuses Al Franken of doing. So it's not that long of an article, but I just want to pick out the parts that are relevant to our broadcast here. Carl Peterson, thank you, Carl, so much for the donation. Thank you. Okay, so she says she was on a USO tour. She had gone on, it was her 9th USO tour to entertain the troops. The headliner on the tour was comedian Al Franken, and they were on this USO tour. And she says, Franken had written some skits for the show and brought props and costumes to go along with them. Like many USO shows before and since, the skits were full of sexual innuendo geared toward a young male audience. So I guess at the USO shows, they do these like raunchy jokes and stuff like that. Or I don't know about raunchy, but sexual innuendo in skits is part of what they normally do at these shows because you have a lot of young men watching. Let me just check the sound, make sure you can hear me. In costumes, wonderful. Sounds you can hear me great. So Al Franken, who's the headliner, brought some skits, and he has skits in it. He has skit writing in his past because he spent all those years at Saturday Night Live writing and performing in skits. So these skits that Al Franken wrote and brought with him were like the usual skits in USO shows, you know, having some sexual innuendo in them. And so he wrote it. She didn't expect to be in the skit, but he wrote a part for her. And she says, when I saw the script, Franken had written a moment when his character comes at me for a kiss. I suspected what he was after, but I figured I could turn my head at the last minute or put my hand over his mouth to get more laughs from the crowd. Now, I will say here, she says, I suspected what he was after. You know, I can't say right now what if he was after anything. I mean, if we had the script in front of us, perhaps Al Franken had written some skit at which the kiss, played some important comedic role. Not to say that she would have to do it, or should be forced to do it. My point is that she says, I suspected I knew what he was after, which sounds like he's accusing him of only writing the kiss just so he could kiss her. We don't have evidence of that, but I just wanted to, just a little passing point I want to say. It's a very minor point, but I think it's worth saying. I don't want to sit here and say Al Franken. I don't want to say. I want to point out that is her view of events, but that might not be Al Franken's view of events. Anyway, she says, on the day of the show, Franken and I were alone backstage going over our lines one last time. He said to me, "We need to rehearse the kiss." I laughed and ignored him. Then he said it again. I said something like, "Relax, Al, this isn't SNL. We don't need to rehearse the kiss." He continued to insist, and I was beginning to get uncomfortable. He repeated that actors really need to rehearse everything and that we must practice the kiss. I said okay, so he would stop badgering me. We did the line leading up to the kiss, and then he came at me, put his hand on the back of my head, mashed his lips against mine, and aggressively stuck his tongue in my mouth. So she says Al Franken was saying they should practice a kiss. He asked her a few times to do this. She finally said yes. And then when they practiced this kiss that he had written into the skit, he did it very aggressively, put his tongue in her mouth, and she did not want that. So she says, I immediately pushed him away with both of my hands against his chest and told him if he ever did that to me again, I wouldn't be so nice about it the next time. I walked away. All I could think about was getting to the bathroom as fast as possible to rinse the taste out of my mouth. I felt disgusted and violated. Okay, so that's accusation one. There are two accusations here that she makes. One is the kiss one, where she says he didn't just grab her and kiss her out of the blue, but what he did is he wrote a part for them where they kiss in this USO skit, and she agreed to rehearse it with him. So she did agree to kiss him, but he did it too aggressively. And also, I guess you could say she felt that it was a little bit of an... So she disapproved of the kiss, but she also... It sounds like she disapproved of him insisting on practicing the kiss, but she agreed to do it anyway. So she seemed uncomfortable with the kiss being there, but she went along with it, and she went along with the practicing. But what she's really, really criticizing him here for was the way they kissed. Anyways, all right, so that kiss part is accusation one. So let's get to accusation two. That's accusation one. By the way, she also says, just to finish up on this accusation, she says, no one saw what happened backstage. I didn't tell the sergeant major of the Army who was the sponsor of the tour. I didn't tell our USO rep what happened. So she says there are no other witnesses to this and that she didn't tell anybody about it. So, take that as you will. At the time, she says, at the time, I didn't want to cause trouble. We were in the middle of a war zone. It was the first show of our holiday tour. She also says, I tried to let go out, but I was angry. She says, other than our dialogue on stage, I never had a voluntary conversation with Al Franken again. I avoided him as much as possible and made sure I was never alone with him for the rest of the tour. Franken repaid me with petty insults, including drawing devil horns on at least one of the headshots I was autographing for the troops, but he didn't stop there. All right, so that's part one. Now, let me point out also, she says, they never had a conversation the rest of the tour and that he kept insulting her and drew horns on one of the pictures. Now, it's certainly possible. We haven't heard from Al Franken specifically about this. Al Franken might have felt he was just joking around with her, and Al might have felt that he drew the horns on that one photo and that she would think it was funny, and maybe she didn't. I'm not defending Al Franken here, or defending anybody here. All I'm saying is we have not heard Al Franken's side specifically of these events. So, and we'll talk about Al Franken's statements he released, but he doesn't really go into his side of events. He does say he remembers the rehearsal differently, but he didn't address this like post-rehearsal stuff. So, just pointing out that we have one accusation of the kiss incident, and she admits, no one else saw it, and I didn't tell anybody about it, at least immediately after. So we have her word. We haven't heard from Al Franken about the specifics about this. But anyways, that's accusation one. Okay. Now, accusation two, she says, but he didn't stop there. The tour wrapped, and on Christmas Eve, we began the 36-hour trip home to LA. After 2 weeks of grueling travel and performing, I was exhausted. When our C-17 cargo plane took off from Afghanistan, I immediately fell asleep, even though I was still wearing my flak vest and Kevlar helmet. It wasn't until I was back in the US and looking through the CD of photos we were given by the photographer that I saw this one. And she has the picture here in her article. And then she says in the article, I couldn't believe it. He groped me without my consent while I was asleep. I felt violated all over again, embarrassed, belittled, humiliated. How dare anyone grab my breasts like this and think it's funny? Now, so she says that this photo shows that he grabbed her breasts and groped her. That's what she says. There's no other evidence for that. She is going off this one photo and saying, I saw from this photo that that's what he did. Now, those of you who follow me on Twitter have heard me say this today. When I looked at the photo and I look at it now, it's not clear to me that he's grabbing her breast there. And also, I will say this. I saw Casey Hunt from MSNBC said something today, something like that he was holding his hands over her chest area. I believe that's what she said. I can get you the exact quote here. I posted a tweet about it. Yeah. Oh, no. So Casey Hunt on MSNBC said the Franken photo showed Franken mock groping her. That's what Casey Hunt on MSNBC said. Dana Bash on CNN said he was holding his hands over the chest area of LeAnn Tweeden. So I'm not the only one who thinks if you look at the photo, it's not really clear if he's touching her. And I will say this, and I just want to get clear on everything here. I'm not doing this to be lewd. I don't think it's lewd because to me it doesn't even look like he's touching her. But I just want to be clear on the photo here. If I can blow it up a little bit. Oh, I think I can. I can just do this. So if you look at the left hand, you can see where the left hand, you can see definitely his palm of his left hand is not on her chest. His palm on his left hand looks like a couple inches away from her chest. So he's certainly not, doing a full-out grabbing of her chest with his left hand. It looks to me like either he's not touching her chest or his fingers might be rubbing against the jacket. I can't tell. So he's not grabbing with his left hand. And if you assume he's doing the same thing with both hands, that would suggest he's not grabbing with either hand. But she said he grabbed my breasts. I mean, this is what she said in the article. He grabbed my breasts. So just I want to point out here that, with the second accusation, there's what she said happened. She says he groped me, he grabbed my breasts, but she's basing this all on this photo, and I'm just pointing out that if you look at the photo, maybe you have a different read than I do, but I don't think it's clear from the photo that he's grabbing her breasts. Anyways, so that being said, she said he did that. She said, I felt violated, I felt embarrassed, humiliated. Then she says, I told my husband everything that happened and showed him the picture. I don't know if everything that happened maybe that includes the kiss, I'm not sure. And then she tells about how she came to today finally go public with all of this. So that's the rest of the article. I won't read all of that now. You feel free to read it though if you'd like. So those are the two accusations. Again, we have LeAnn Tweeden saying, one, that Al Franken, they were on a USO tour together, wrote a sketch where they were supposed to kiss in the sketch, asked her repeatedly to practice it, but she said yes. And then when they practiced it, she felt he was way too aggressive and also stuck his tongue down her throat in a very too aggressive way and did not approve of that at all. So that's accusation one. Then she also had this, it's not really a big accusation, as big as accusation as that, but she was saying like he came like in the time after that on the tour, he used petty insults. He lobbed petty insults at me and drew horns on one of my photos that I was giving to somebody or I was autographing for somebody. So there's that. But the big one is the kiss. And then the big second accusation is that he supposedly, she says, grabbed her breasts and groped her. And she says this based on this photo, which, as I mentioned, it's not to me clear that he's grabbing her breasts in the photo like she says. Anyways, so those are the two accusations. All right. So that took a little time, but I just wanted to be clear on what exactly we're talking about here. Now, We can talk about how Al Franken responded to these accusations. And then we're going to get to your comments. So I'd love to hear from you what you think about all of this. Write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. And give me a shout. Let me know what you think. Be sure to subscribe to us on Right Side Broadcasting, by the way, so you can know when we're coming on the air with these news videos. We do them all the time. We do cover breaking news at all hours. So subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get notified. All right. So, and I'll say one more time. Thanks to those people who donated. We really appreciate it. We are viewer supported. You let us do broadcasts like this. If you want to donate, bottom of the YouTube chat, you can click the $sign or go to rsbn.tv/donate. rsbn.tv/donate. Okay, so we've talked about the accusations. So she came out with these accusations, and then the story kind of blew up this morning. And I kept seeing tweets about it and reports about it. And it really right after she posted this story this morning, the story blew up. And then Al Franken initially, now when it blew up, I saw a bunch of people in the media, not conservative media, just like mainstream media, some people who I think have a more liberal bent. They were already, it seemed to me that they were already convicting Al Franken of everything she said in their posts. So I thought that was a little odd that we hadn't even heard from Al Franken yet, and these people were already convicting him based simply on one side of the story. But then Al Franken he made his first comment on this. And thank you, Heinz Getwellvet. Heinz Getwellvet gave $25. Thank you, Heinz Getwellvet. Much appreciated. And S-Blaster gave $5. Thank you, S-Blaster. S-Blaster says, Steve, did you ever meet Al Franken at Saturday Night Live? I saw you work there. I should have disclosed this. In fair disclosure, yes, I worked there for 2 years, and I worked with Al Franken. And I found him to be a very nice guy and also a very funny guy and also very, very knowledgeable about politics. And this was before he did several years of doing radio shows. He used to host radio shows on Air America about politics. But even back then, a really, really knowledgeable guy about politics. So, I can't speak for all Congress people, but I'm guessing he's probably one of the best informed ones because he really does know his stuff. But it's not like I'm in regular contact with him nowadays or anything, but he was great to work with. Okay, so Al Franken's first response was, let me pull it up here, this. So this was posted at 11:04 a.m. today by ABC News Politics. And it says, Senator Al Franken responds to sexual misconduct allegation, sending sincerest apologies and saying, photo was clearly intended to be funny, but it wasn't. I shouldn't have done it. So his first statement was this. This is the whole first statement. I certainly don't remember the rehearsal for the skit in the same way, but I send my sincerest apologies to LeAnn. As to the photo, it was clearly intended to be funny, but it wasn't. I shouldn't have done it. So a couple things here. First of all, Al Franken here seems to deny her account of the kissing incident, because the kissing incident happened at the rehearsal for the skit. So he, in this response, seems to deny her account. He doesn't specifically say what about it he thinks is inaccurate. He just says he doesn't remember it the same way. Then he says, as to the photo, was clearly intended to be funny, but wasn't. So he doesn't address here the question of whether he actually did grope her and whether he's groping her in the photo. He doesn't address that either way. He just says it was clearly intended to be funny, but it wasn't. I shouldn't have done it. So it sounds to me like, well, I can't tell. I can't tell what you can't really read in a view on the groping thing, on the groping charge in this tweet from Al Franken. Not tweet. It was, I guess it was a comment made to some reporter or something like that. It was not. I don't think it was a formal statement he released. I think this was a comment made to somebody. Okay, so that's response one. But later in the day, he came out with a longer response, and he actually posted this on his Facebook page 6 hours ago. So this is Al Franken's more complete response to LeAnn Tweeden. And I'm going to read it to you right now. He says, Al Franken says, the first thing I want to do is apologize to LeAnn, to everyone who was part of that tour, to everyone who has worked for me. to everyone I represent and to everyone who counts on me to be an ally and supporter and champion of women. There's more I want to say, but the first and most important thing, and it's the only thing, and if it's the only thing you care to hear, that's fine, is I'm sorry. I respect women. I don't respect men who don't. And the fact that my own actions have given people a good reason to doubt that makes me feel ashamed. But I want to say something else too. Over the last few months, all of us, including and especially men who respect women, have been forced to take a good hard look at our own actions and think, perhaps shamefully for the first time, about how those actions have affected women. For instance, that picture. I don't know what was in my head when I took the picture, and it doesn't matter. Where was I here? There's no excuse. I look at it now and I feel disgusted with myself. It isn't funny. It's completely inappropriate. It's obvious how LeAnn would feel violated by that picture. And what's more, I can see how millions of other women would feel violated by it. Women who have had similar experiences in their own lives, women who fear having those experiences, women who look up to me, women who have counted on me. Coming from the world of comedy, I've told and written a lot of jokes that I once thought were funny, but later came to realize were just plain offensive. But the intentions behind my actions aren't the point at all. It's the impact these jokes had on others that matters. And I'm sorry it's taken me so long to come to terms with that. While I don't remember the rehearsal for the skit as LeAnn does, so he says that again, while I don't remember the rehearsal for the skit as LeAnn does, I understand why we need to listen to and believe women's experiences. I am asking that an ethics investigation be undertaken, and I will gladly cooperate. And the truth is, what people think of me in light of this is far less important than what people think of the women who continue to come forward to tell their stories. They deserve to be heard and believed. And they deserve to know that I am their ally and supporter. I have let them down and I'm committed to making it up to them. So that's the letter. I want to talk about it in a second. But first, Carl Peterson made another donation. Thank you, Carl. Carl says, I will stomp through the muck and mire of the swamp. It stinks, but stay the course, RSBN. Thank you, Carl. So here's what I want to point out about Al Franken's message here. Remember, there are two accusations here. One is the kiss, one is the photo. Al Franken here does not admit to the kiss charge. On the contrary, he again, like in his first statement, says, where does it say it here about the rehearsal? Yes, right here. While I don't remember the rehearsal for the skit as LeAnn does. So he's not agreeing with her account. Now, he doesn't get into why he disagrees with her account of the rehearsal. It's very possible that he doesn't agree with her charge, but he feels like at this point, it's not worth fighting or it'll just make him look bad. Also, maybe he subtly disagrees. Maybe maybe he thinks like, well, the kiss wasn't as bad or I didn't use as much tongue as you said. But to actually come out and say that he might think that's going to be worse than just not talking about the details of the disagreement. But he does say, I don't remember the rehearsal for the skit that as LeAnn does. So to me, he is making a point to not agree with her account of accusation 1, the kiss. As for accusation 2, note what he says. All he admits to here is that the photo, he could see how the photo how it would make LeAnn feel violated and how millions of other women would feel violated by it. So he admits that it would make women feel violated. And he admits, I shouldn't have done it because it's not funny. But nowhere does he admit that he groped her or grabbed her chest area. All he says is that, look, I admit the photo wasn't funny, and I admit that you could feel it could make women feel violated, and I admit that it was the wrong thing to do. But he does not at all acknowledge, grabbing her chest. And also, to me, if he really thought he grabbed her chest, but he only apologized for the photo, that would be kind of odd, because it'd be odd to be apologizing for a photo when the real issue wouldn't be the photo, would be you grabbing somebody's chest. So, at one point today, CNN had a headline on the air that to me just struck me as entirely false or not justified by what was being by what was being reported and what we knew. Hold on, let me just show you this headline. And they changed the headline later. So here, for a while, they had this headline up, Franken apologized to women he groped. So they're saying in this headline, he really did grope her. And they're saying it in this headline too, he really did grope her. And then later they changed it back to news anchor says Franken groped her. They changed it back later. But my point is, I think it's important to be clear, because I saw this misreported in some places. Al Franken never admitted that he did either of the two big things she said he did. He actually contested one of the accusations, the kissing one, by twice saying, I don't remember the rehearsal the same way she did. And he certainly did not admit to grabbing her chest. So an interesting question to me is, does Al Franken think, well, I really didn't do the two things she said I did, but I did take a picture that was embarrassing and inappropriate. So I'm not going to get into an argument with her over the nitpickiness of what over the details of what she's saying. I'm just going to admit it and move on. I'm going to admit I did something wrong and move on, because I'm not going to win the argument where we get nitpicky about how much tongue was used and whether I grabbed the chest or just held my hand out over it. But that's a good question to me. So anyways, we do have like a he said, she said here. That's what we have. To me, at least we do. What you think about it is up to you. And the last part of this story that I want to say before getting to your comments is that the ethics committee, there will be a Senate ethics investigation. So Al Franken said, I am asking that an ethics investigation be undertaken, and reportedly there will be one. There will be one today. I probably can find this on Twitter. Let's see. See, now here's the problem. Nate Silver says if Franken has basically admitted to the conduct Tweeden accused him of, or at least to groping her when he was asleep, he never admitted this. I'm going to say this. Well, after we get off the air, I'm going to respond to this tweet, because I respect Nate Silver, but he never did admit this. So there will be, I can't find the exact tweet, but there will be investigation into, maybe the New York Times story had it. Did they have anything about the ethics committee? Here we go. Schumer and McConnell wasted no time before forwarding the matter to the Senate Ethics Committee. So the Senate Ethics Committee will have some sort of hearing on this. Do they punish Al Franken at all? I heard speculation on CNN saying they might even expel him from the Senate. I can't imagine that's possible, but who knows? But we'll see if they take any disciplinary action on Al Franken. So I want to hear from you now. Okay, we talked about what Al Franken was accused of. We talked about Al Franken's response. We talked about that it's going to the Senate. There's going to be a Senate Ethics Committee hearing, procedure, investigation into this. I want to hear what you think about this Al Franken story. Let me know. Write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Somebody made another donation. S Blaster just gave $50. Thank you, S Blaster, so much. That's really generous of you. S Blaster says, I see all your comments and S about you people leaving RSBN for this and canceling your donations. What a shame. He's just trying to be fair and down the line. Most of the programs are conservative, but a news anchor should be non-biased. Yeah, I haven't had time to really read the comments during the broadcast. What I'm trying to do here, and this is the same thing I've been trying to do, those of you who watch the Roy Moore coverage, is I'm trying to get the facts on the table. I haven't said one word about who did what and who I think did what. I'm just trying to be, I think it's important to get all the facts on the table. And I see a lot of reporting all the time in the media where they mess up the facts. So, one thing we like to do here at Right Side Broadcasting is we like to get you all of the facts. We don't shape the facts. We just give you the facts, and we let you make up your minds based on all the facts. And I think it's important to be careful here. Same with Al Franken, with Roy Moore, with anyone who's accused of something. I think it's important to be really factual about what they're accused of, what the evidence we have is, and what their response is. So, a lot of the reporting I've seen today has not been very careful. You see that post by Nate Silver, who's somebody I very much respect, who said Al Franken basically admitted groping her, which he never did. He doesn't admit groping her in his statement. And I don't like seeing, false things get out there because people aren't being careful. So we're trying to be very careful here about all of the facts here. And feel free, if you don't like, certain things on the broadcast and stuff, I'm always happy to read your comments on the air and listen. So we are open to hearing your feedback here at Right Side. Write to me right now if you'd like, and I'll read it on the air. Let me know. Okay, I'm on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Now, Chest Harrington wrote it and said there was a second woman today. I saw some stories out saying second woman accuser, and I don't really think that's the best characterization of the story. By the way, thank you, Jerry OOG made a donation. Jerry said, RSBN and Steve Lookner bring the very best in breaking news coverage. Thank you, Jerry, for the donation. We really appreciate your support. So this story, thank you, Chest, for reminding me about this story. So there's a story from someone named, this is from, I can't remember where this was first reported. This is Media Equalizer, but it's a woman who says Al Franken harassed her after a TV appearance. And the basic story is she says she was on a show with Al Franken in 2000, and that they had a disagreement on the show. And then afterwards, he kept pursuing her to argue about this disagreement. So it says, here, let me show you. So there's Melanie Morgan. She was on this show, and I made a statement about budget numbers. Franken challenged me. I challenged him back. It was about spending priorities. Actually just a mundane discussion, but he obsessed over it. After the show, Morgan said Franken wouldn't leave her alone, insisting on continuing the argument. He approached me backstage, angrily called me out on those numbers, and insisted he would prove he was right. He wouldn't leave me alone. He kept following me. As a woman, his presence and proximity to me felt very threatening and intimidating. Then she says, he approached Carol, the show's producer, and demanded my home phone number, which was a clear violation of network protocol. I had thought it was the end of the story and was shocked when he started calling my home, badgering me repeatedly. I became fearful and called Carol to complain and asked her to tell him to back off, but he made another call after that. I thought he might end up stalking me at my home in Northern California. It was that bad. By the third phone call, I was outraged and terrified. She said Franken finally left her alone only after she pushed back and threatened to call the police and make a report that he was harassing me. So she accuses him of harassing her, but this is not, the harassment was not him trying to date her, putting his hands on her in a sexual way. Basically, it sounds like what she's accusing him of is they got into some kind of disagreement on the air on a show, and he wanted to argue he was right, and he wouldn't let the argument go, and he was calling her at home to continue this argument. But she does not say there was some kind of sexual thing going on here. She says at one point she felt uncomfortable because he was a man, I guess, backstage after the show, but she never accuses him of sexual misconduct here. So, when I did see things here about Franken has second accuser, I thought when people in the mainstream media were posting that, harassed me too, when you say two and you're not clear, when you see second accuser, harassed me too, that makes it sound like to anybody who just sees a headline, oh, it's a second sexual harassment case, whereas that's really, to me, not what this is. But thank you, Chess, for reminding me that story was out there. And I think somebody made a donation here. Jordan gave $5. Jordan said, thanks, Steve, for the unbiased reporting. Thank you, Jordan, for your donation. We appreciate that. Those donations are what keeps us on the air. And yeah, again, we do this. We try here to not tell you what to think. We want you to decide things for yourselves. What we want to be agenda free, and we want to just present the facts. And today, as I've been watching and reading stuff, I have found it so hard to get the actual facts about the story. And I've been so disappointed in a number of people, like Nate Silver, who I think is great and usually very responsible, for just posting these things that are just not true and are misleading. And it's upsetting to me. And I think, people should have the facts, and journalists should be careful about what they're reporting. So, and you should have a place where you can go and no one's telling you what to think, and you can decide for yourselves. So that's what we really do here. We try to be careful, get all the facts on the table, examine all the sides of the argument, and then you can decide whatever you want. Okay, so let's, I want to reach your comments now. I want to get to more of your comments. Ali writes in, I always believe women, but with her I'm skeptical. Her interview did not appear authentic. She works for Hannity on Fox News. I almost feel like she found that picture and conjured up a salacious story based on that picture. So that's your opinion, Ali, and so I'm sure some of you have different opinions. I can't say, I can't speak to her, credibility or lack of it. And I'm not going to make a case that we shouldn't believe her, because I know nothing. Well, let me say that this is the one thing I'll say. And this, I'm not telling you what to decide or not, and I'm not saying what I think about this. I will say this, and this is something I posted on Twitter this morning. If you look at her article, she gives two accusations: the kiss accusation and the groping her accusation, where she says that this photo shows that Al Franken, quote, grabbed my breasts. She says that in the article, and she says that's what that photo shows. To me, when I look at that photo, it's certainly not clear to me he's grabbing her breasts at all. It's definitely not clear to me that that's what's happening. A case can be made that he's not, but it's definitely not clear. So to me, given that to me, she overstates one of her accusations. She says he grabbed my breast. It's clear in the photo. That's what she says in the article. To me, it's not clear in the photo. Someone might claim, well, if she's making that accusation, which isn't backed up by her evidence, does that lessen her credibility on the first accusation? I don't know. That's up to you what to think. I am saying, though, that I do think somebody could make that case, but it's up to you. And I personally, the one thing, as I'll say, is based on just looking at the photo and what she said about it, to me, the facts of the matter are that the photo doesn't clearly show him groping her, but she says he does. And she says her only evidence for that is the photo. Now, maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe he did before the photo or after the photo. I don't know. We haven't heard from Al Franken clearly on this either way. So I'm just giving you the facts. I'm not telling you what to think. But I think there should be a place where someone can give these facts as they are actually there, without an agenda and without trying to take a side either way. And that's all I'm doing right now. Thanks, Ali, for writing in. Michael Large says he doesn't deny groping her. He said the picture was inappropriate. There's no denial. So, Michael, I agree with you. What I said is he doesn't deny groping her. He doesn't admit groping her. He says nothing in his statement, and in both of his statements today, he says literally nothing about whether he groped her. Now, that's not admitting it. That's not denying it. What we talked about earlier is I was trying to read into his statement and say, well, can you think of why he wouldn't mention it and what might that mean? But he certainly did not admit it. I would, if anybody finds a place where he admits groping her in that statement, please let me know, because I never saw it. But he did not explicitly deny it. Now, we could read into this different ways. We could say, well, maybe that means he did it, but he doesn't want to admit it. But somebody else might say, well, he doesn't think he did it, and he didn't. The evidence doesn't show him doing it, but he doesn't want to get into an argument with her over this because he thinks that's not an argument he wants to have in public, and doesn't think that will help them. I leave it to you what to think. So I never said in his statement that he denied it. All I said is that he doesn't mention it. He doesn't mention whether he did or he didn't. Brian N. writes in, hey, Steve, no matter how you look at Franken, he is guilty of very inappropriate conduct, and now I see him, he looks like a molester to me. So thanks, Brian, for writing in. I'll say this. he admits doing something inappropriate here. And he says this photo was inappropriate. He fully admits that. So there's no question about, she says he took an inappropriate photo. He says he took an inappropriate photo. They agree on that. So they agree on that. But in the media coverage I was seeing today, there was a lot of like jumping from him admitting he took an inappropriate photo to people saying, oh, well, he admitted groping her, which if you read the message he posted, he does not admit to doing that. And he doesn't even admit to kissing her like she said he did. In both of his statements, he says, I don't remember the rehearsal like she does. That's what he says, but he doesn't get specific. Doug Neipel says, for some men, it's hard to know where to draw the line between flirting and being creepy. This is an interesting point, Doug. You know, there is a world, and I wasn't there, I don't know what happened, but one possibility for what happened is that Al Franken was flirting with her or thought he was flirting with her. Maybe they were kind of mutually flirting, but then maybe he took it too far, or maybe she didn't think they were flirting. I mean, there's all of these things here. And so what you say, Doug, is certainly one possibility. I can't say exactly what happened. I wasn't there, but that is one possibility. BC Man writes in, Franken is a nasty creep. His humor is sick. He can return to SNL and forget politics. Already too many comedians and politics already. So you are not a fan of his humor, BC Man, and you think he is a nasty creep. Thank you for writing in. Doug Neipel says, about Franken, about all of them, this objectification of women is a cultural elephant in the room. We all know that sexual innuendo is a part of life. I feel like there's different ways I could interpret your statement, Doug, so feel free to clarify. I don't want to misinterpret you, so feel free to write back and clarify. Sam Lund writes in, it's the Harvey Weinstein bandwagon. I think it's a response to this. Yes. To this broadcast. To the news. It was a response to the tweet that we were doing this broadcast. I don't know if Sam Lund is actually watching the broadcast. Matt writes in, if the left and the establishment Republicans expect Roy Moore to resign over allegations, why the F not Franken? So freaking sick of double standards. So what's bothering you, Matt, is you feel that Roy Moore has been alleged of sexual misconduct and he's been asked to step out of the race. And you feel like, by people on the left, you're saying, and you feel like to be fair, to be consistent, the people on the left who are asking Roy Moore to resign should also, to step out of the race, should also ask Al Franken to resign. So that's an interesting point. Now, I could imagine if somebody from the left was here right now, they might respond to you in ways like saying like, oh, well, Al Franken isn't accused of doing something as bad, or Al Franken is only accused by one woman, and you might not buy that. So it is a debate to be had, but you make the point, you feel that there's inconsistency on the left by people who are asking for Roy Moore to pull out of the election, but not asking for Al Franken to resign. Let's get to some more of your messages. Andrew Sova says, Steve, Fox News says she has already dropped charges. I don't think, she never pressed charges, I don't believe. Well, did she even mention anything about pressing charges? I don't even think I've heard anything about this. But I don't think there were ever any charges pressed, so I don't think there were any charges to be dropped. But maybe I'm wrong. I just never read that she pressed any charges about this anywhere. I mean, I think she was only admitting this today publicly. So if she had pressed charges before, she would have had to admit this publicly before, or at least to the police. But I'm not aware of her doing that before. PCellC says, hey, Steve, if she is married, there's no excuse for him to do that, even if he didn't touch her. Who would want to see another man doing that to his wife? Thank you, and RSBN. Thank you, PCell, for writing in. So just to be clear, well, first of all, she wasn't married at the time, but she had a boyfriend. But just to be clear, I want to be clear on this. To say that the photo doesn't show that he grabbed her chest is not the same thing as saying he did nothing wrong. There are two different issues here. So the point I was, this morning I sent out a tweet and it said like, well, if you look at the photo doesn't show what she says the photo does. That's all I said. And then people were acting like I said, I got some tweets that said, oh, you're saying that everything he did was totally okay. And I never said that. To say that to just be clear on what she says and what he says and what the photo shows in no way says that what he did was okay. So I just want to be clear. I think I've been misinterpreted, and I never once at all today said stuff Al Franken did was okay. All I said was that in the photo, she accuses him of in the photo doing a specific thing, which to me the photo doesn't show. That's all I said. That's it. That's all I said. So I just want to be clear on that. Thank you, PCell, as always, for writing in and sharing your views. JC says she was, there is nothing to defend, Steve. The gesture in itself is wrong. She was asleep and defenseless. Okay, so I'm glad you wrote that, JC. And this is a different issue here. So a different issue is whether him doing that to her, if let's say he didn't touch her, just as you said, JC, making the gesture is wrong. Al Franken did admit that. He says in his statement, he says, that gesture I feel was inappropriate. I understand how it made her feel violated. I understand how it made different women feel violated who would see the picture. So Al Franken does admit that that was wrong. And I never said that that wasn't wrong. But what I was trying to get clear on is if you look at her accusations were about the kiss and the groping. Her accusation wasn't that he took some photo that was that involved an improper gesture, although she might have thought that as well. What she says is specifically, he groped me without my consent. He grabbed my breast. And a big part of the media coverage today became Al Franken groping allegations. The groping was very much focused on today in the media. I mean, I can show you the headlines from CNN that I saw before, where the media was really focusing on the groping. Franken groped and kissed me, groped and kissed me. Franken apologized to women he groped without consent. So the media coverage, the big uproar today wasn't just Al Franken took a photo with an inappropriate gesture. A lot of it was Al Franken groped her. So to me, it's especially important, given that that's what the media is talking about, what a lot of people in Congress are talking about, that we get clear on what the evidence is for the groping. That's not to say that the photo was appropriate or that there's not something inappropriate about taking that photo. It's just addressing the different parts of this separately and keeping everything clear so we can get all the facts out. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay, let me get some more of your comments. Patriot of Truth says, okay, so what now? Is it true or fake? We want an answer. LOL. Well, that's something only you guys can decide for yourselves. In a case like this, unfortunately, with cases like this, you wish we sort of, when somebody's accused of something, we had like video evidence and we could just tell and just know for sure. But that's not the way these things work a lot of times. And unfortunately, we have somebody accusing Al Franken of something and Al Franken not admitting that he did what she said he did. And then for the kiss thing, suggesting that her account is incorrect. And it's up to each of us to come to a decision about who we believe and how much we believe them. That's just what we have to do. And to help us do that, I just think the best thing to do is to get all the facts out there. And that's what we've been trying to do in this broadcast, is just to get out the facts that are out there and get clear on who's accusing who of what and what the facts are. But that's, It's up to you guys to decide who you believe. And that goes for Roy Moore. It goes for Al Franken. It goes for all these different things in this area. You know, you just have to use your judgment, decide who you think is who you believe. Maggie June says, a pre-planned joke is my understanding. So I believe Al Franken did say he thought this was a joke. She says in the article, I think, to get back at me, he took the photo. Is that what he says? Let me see if I can remember this. But he didn't stop there. I can't find it here. I thought I read that earlier. But Al Franken did say in his statement, he says it was a joke. He meant it as a joke, but now he thinks it wasn't funny. For instance, he says, I don't know what was in my head when I took the picture, and it doesn't matter maybe. There's no excuse. It wasn't funny. And he does say, but right after that, he talks about coming from the world of comedy. I've told and written a lot of jokes that I once thought were funny, but later came to realize. So he says he doesn't know what was in his head. So he doesn't admit to it being a joke, but it seems to imply that it might have been a joke. And certainly in the photo, he's laughing, so maybe he thought it was a joke at the time. So, at least on basis of what he says, it seems like he might have thought it was a joke at the time. Let's see here. American Patriot says, a picture is worth 1,000 words. What did he say? Has a comment about the idea that Franken would be removed from the Senate. And I believe this is what it is. Yeah, what did he say, writes in, think of how good this would be for the Democrats. They get to pick a replacement for him before the special election and get the opportunity to honestly do the right thing at the same time. David Richard Steer sent me that second article about Al Franken. We already talked about that earlier in the broadcast, David, so feel free to rewind the broadcast and check out that article. Texas Cowboy said she never agreed to kiss him. She agreed to turn her head, and he grabbed the back of her head to stop her so she could kiss her. So just to be clear what she said in the article. In the article, she says, so she says, he repeated that actors really need to rehearse everything and that we must practice the kiss. I said okay so he would stop badgering me. So nothing in there says she wasn't going to kiss him. What she says is later, what she says is here, up here she says, where is it? I suspected what he was after, but I figured I could turn my head at the last minute or put my hand over his mouth to get more laughs from the crowd. What that says there is that she was saying that during the actual show, she was not going to kiss him. She intended on putting her hand up or putting her hand over her mouth. That says she planned on doing that during the actual show. It does not say she planned on doing that during the rehearsal. She never says that she planned on doing that during the rehearsal. Further below in the article, she doesn't say, I tried to stop him from kissing me. I tried to put my hand to my mouth. If she was doing that, she didn't write it in the article. So maybe she left something out of the article. I'm just pointing out what was actually said in the article. But a good question, Texas Cowboy. So I appreciate you asking it. Michael Large, who wrote in before that Al Franken didn't deny... Michael Large wrote in before, Al Franken didn't deny groping her. And I said, yes, I agree with you, but he didn't admit it either. Michael says, I wasn't disagreeing with you. Point was, if you were in the same situation and you didn't grope her, wouldn't you be hitting every talk show with denials? I know I would. Well, it's a great question, Michael, but the problem is that Al Franken thinks he did something wrong. He thinks this photo is inappropriate. And he very well might think, look, if I go on talk shows and deny I groped her, people are going to look at the photo and say, but now you're not admitting you did something wrong. So he very well might think, I didn't grope her, I didn't kiss her the way she said I did, But this photo's out there. I can't get rid of the photo, and I think the photo was wrong. He might be thinking this, and that it doesn't do me any good to get out there and start having this semantics definition, this semantics argument and this technical argument about kissing. It's going to make it look even worse. So one thing he might have done is just bit the bullet, admitted that the photo was inappropriate, not admitted to the inappropriate kissing or the groping, and just said, I'm going to say I'm sorry and move on with this. I'm not saying that's what happened. It's something that could have happened, though. So that would be the motivation for him to not deny, because there is something out there, this photo that he thinks is inappropriate, and that's clear that he took the photo. So Kevin Reddick says, resign immediately, Al Franken, worthless Jack Wagon. I don't know who Jack Wagon is. I should look it up for a second and see. Or maybe you mean Jack Wagon or something. I'm not sure. You might have meant Jack Wagon. Edie Marie Trump says there's a third woman, but the article you sent me is the article about the second woman, Melanie Morgan. I think. Let's see. Oh, Melanie Morgan says it's a third woman. I do not know LeAnn to support. Let's see. Oh, so somebody posted online that like LeAnn Tweeden said another woman contacted her with a similar experience, but she hadn't had a chance to return the call. I didn't see where that was. So maybe LeAnn Tweeden said that today. I don't know what the similar experience was. I don't know who this woman is. We haven't heard that story yet, as far as I'm aware. So I'm happy to report on it if we get the actual story. Thanks for writing in. BC Man said, Steve, like you said, report only the facts. Don't speculate what might have happened. We appreciate you. We live with new accusations almost daily. Yeah, so, well, you know, I do think it's certainly reasonable when we're talking about these things to first go over what we know and then what we didn't know. And then after we do that, say, well, what might have happened? But I'm not saying anything which did happen. I leave it up to you guys to decide, you know, what do you think happened? That's your choice to make. And we're not going to sit here and try to make it for you. Brass P-Cell says, my previous message wasn't accusing you of anything, Steve. Your reporting is always fair. That was just my point of view. Thanks for saying that, P-Cell. And I didn't really take you as accusing me. I thought maybe you had misinterpreted what I had said. So that's all I was saying. But always appreciate hearing from you, P-Cell. Matt says, to be clear, I don't think that Moore or Franken should have to resign. But if you're going to call for one person to resign over allegations, you can't not call for someone else to resign over the same allegations just because you agree with them politically without being a huge hypocrite. So you're saying you personally, Matt, don't think either of them should resign, but you think if people are calling for Moore to resign, they should call for Franken to resign. Okay, I get your view now. Michael Large writes, good point. Thanks for the response. You're welcome. Thank you, Michael. Let me say this also, you know, whatever your view is, I am welcome to have it. We are always welcome to RSBN to have it on the air. You know, look, these kind of issues, they're difficult issues, and everybody's not going to all agree on every single point about all of these issues. But, you know, one thing I think that's cool about Right Side is a place where we can discuss these things without it getting out of control. We can listen to each other. We can do it calmly. You're not going to hear yelling on this show, except when like a black screen comes on. I get really mad at YouTube. But you know, and the moderators do a great job of this in the chat as well, where there's discussion in there, but they try to keep the discussion, you know, civil. And so you know, and I respect. You know, if you disagree with me about something, if you disagree with us here at Right Side, we want to hear it from you. Let us know. But what we're not doing here is telling you what to think. We're really just trying to get you all the facts, because we think that a lot of the media doesn't do a job getting you all the facts, and they actually spin facts and give you incorrect facts. We want to get you the facts, and we want to present you with just raw information in a non-filtered way, and then let you make up your own mind about what to think. And maybe you make up your own mind, and you know, one person makes up their own mind one way, and one person makes up their own mind another. But you know, and sometimes it would be easier if the evidence was just easy for a certain case or things are clear cut. But I do find with a lot of stories in the news, when you really get into them, they're a lot more complex than first seem. And you know, our goal here is to not leave stuff out. It's to present full information to you guys so that you can come to your best informed decision about what to think about things. And also to let you have a discussion here as well. So we're happy to hear from you, whatever you want to say about this stuff. Okay, let me check my email. Greg says, did you cover this, Steve? Just watch the video of Franken and Rob Reiner and see how disgusting this pervert really is. He speaks about Carl Reiner bringing people over to have sex with his son. Who could find this funny? One part of the clip shows Rob looking rather uncomfortable. I suspect there is much more to Franken than we now know. Now, I haven't seen that clip. So I'll have to check out that clip if I can find it later. I will say this, however, though. I have not spoken on whether Al Franken did anything else, you know, did this stuff. But when it came to the groping, my point is just this. Just to be clear, LeAnn Tweeden said, Al Franken groped me, and the reason I know this is this picture. She didn't say this picture showed he groped me at some other point. What she says is, this picture shows he groped me, he grabbed my chest. The other word she says. That's what she says. So that's the specific thing she's she's accusing him of, groping him when that picture was taken. And so whatever Al Franken says in an interview, to me will not change whether that photo shows that he groped her in the photo. Now, you might think if you see a certain interview with Al Franken, that affects your opinion on whether he kissed her too aggressively the way she said he did. That's fine. I just want to be clear that the photo accusation is about what happened at the moment of that photo. Thank you for writing in, Greg, and sharing that. Okay, I believe I've caught up. Let's see here. Joe Dida says, it's a shame you won't answer my last tweet. Joe, I didn't see your last tweet. Where is it? I have not intentionally been skipping over tweets. Joe, if you're listening, let me know what your tweet was, because I literally didn't see it. Okay, so we're going to stay on for a few minutes more here. If you have any more comments, feel free to give me a shout on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you again to the moderators. We got Lynn Jean, JC. Hey, Jacob Seals is in the chat room tonight. Hi, Jacob. Real Frank. And Common Sense and Glen O on the website. So we'll be following the story. We'll be following this and the Senate ethics investigation and seeing what comes out of that. I'd be surprised if they expelled Al Franken from the Senate, but you never know. We'll also be following, of course, the Roy Moore story. We showed Roy Moore today, earlier on Right Side, speaking about a little bit about the allegations. You can watch that on Right Side Broadcasting. And the election will be on December 12th. We're planning on covering that, the Alabama election. Greg sent me the video. Greg, thank you. I'll check that out later. I appreciate you sending that to me. Just so you know, Greg, that's a YouTube video, so I couldn't, even if I wanted to, I couldn't just show it on the air because YouTube obviously does not, well, I don't know if it's obvious, but YouTube does not look kindly on people who take videos from YouTube streams and show them on other YouTube streams. Unless you own the video, which I don't. Yeah, Garrett wrote in and said the second woman the woman who said Al Franken wouldn't stop arguing with her after she appeared with her on a television show with him and called her house several times to argue with her, said there's supposedly another woman. Said that she had heard LeAnn, somebody, I think the story was that somebody messaged this woman. Somebody messaged Melanie Morgan, who's the woman who said Al Franken wouldn't stop arguing with me and kept calling me at home. And somebody messaged her saying LeAnn Tweeden said another woman contacted LeAnn Tweeden with a similar experience, but she hadn't had a chance to return the call. So we really don't know anything about this supposed third woman or what she might say or who she even is. So again, if I hear anything more, I'll tweet it out about it, this supposed third woman. That's all the information I have on it right now. All right, well, I think at this point I've got to all your messages, so I think we're going to wrap up the stream. Thank you all for joining tonight. Thank you all for all of your different opinions that you wrote in, and for sharing your views on this subject. I genuinely hope we cleared up some facts about what was said on both sides today, so that you can now make anybody watching the stream can make a better informed decision as to who to believe and what to believe about this. But our goal was really to get the facts clear on this. So I hope we did that. By the way, Molly Mazer just wrote in, the question is did Al Franken approve the photo being included in the CD that they sent to LeAnn Tweeden? Surely they asked the participants. I can't imagine it was given the okay by him unless he thought it was worthwhile being included. So you're saying, well, I don't know. It's a good question. It's like, did Al Franken sign off on this photo being included in the CD of photos that they ended up sending to LeAnn Tweeden? Now, maybe he did. He does say that apparently back then he didn't see anything wrong with the photo because he took the photo. But I don't know. Maybe he didn't approve of it. Maybe I don't know. I don't know the deal with that. But he's saying that now he realizes that it wasn't appropriate to do. Interesting point, Molly. So I'm looking at the chat room and I see so there's a comment by Jessica, and she says, I hope you rewatch this. You offended a lot of longtime viewers. I genuinely apologize if I offended anyone. But just to recap what we did here tonight, really what we did, all I did is just go over the facts of the case. That's really what I did. I wanted to get clear on the facts of the case. I'm sorry if that offended people. I hope people didn't misunderstand anything I said, because I certainly didn't, I feel do anything else than, go over the facts of the case. And offer possible interpretations of those facts while not endorsing any of them. So I apologize if I did offend people. I do hope, though, if you did feel offended, please reach out to me and talk with me about it. I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. And we certainly go out of our way to not offend people watching. That's not our goal here. So, but what we want to do is be an agenda-free place where people can, it can be a news organization that's not having an agenda and actually spends the time getting the facts straight. So that's what we like to do here. But feel free, write to me. You can write to me on Twitter at Lookner. You can write to me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Would love to hear from you. And to be clear, I do think if you watch the stream again, you'll see this stream was not about defending anyone. It was not about saying that somebody's telling the truth. It was not about saying that somebody was lying. We never did that in the stream. All we try to do is get you full information. That's what we try to do in this stream. And clarify things. And Linda, I apologize. Linda says, I feel you stood up for Franken. And I never said, Linda, all I said was, this is the facts that are on the table. If that's I don't feel that's standing up for somebody. That's just, I'm not taking sides here. I'm just talking about the facts. So that's how I see it. And I apologize if you think I'm standing up for anybody, but that's not my job here. My job is not to stand up for people, and I don't do it. I get the facts clear. That's my job here. But feel free to write to me and discuss it. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining us. Very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate everybody in the chat room. Thank you for the moderators. I'm sure it was a lively chat. I caught a little bit of it, but we're doing the broadcast, so I can't really read the chat the whole time. But I do appreciate the the moderators keeping the chat moderated and keeping it a place where everybody can discuss things. And so thank you, Lynn, Jean, Guinevere, Real Frank, Roger, JC, and Common Sense and Gleno on the website, and Jacob Seals. I don't know, Jacob, if you were moderating or just visiting in the chat room tonight, but if you were moderating, thank you too, Jacob. And yeah, if you have any thoughts on this, you want to talk more about it, let me know. Give me a shout out on Twitter @Lookner, or email me. Thanks very much to those of you who donated. Always appreciate the donations. That's what keeps us on the air. Lets us be an alternative to the mainstream media. If you want to donate, you can go to the bottom of the YouTube chat and click on the $sign, or you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. And we will be doing more live streams in the future. If there's breaking news later tonight, we will, of course, come on and cover it. So subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell, so you get notified about our stream, or about our streams, or about our videos. And we love when if you like the video, we love when you share it on Facebook and you like it on YouTube. That lets everybody know about Right Side Broadcasting. And you can follow us on Facebook at Right Side Broadcasting, on Twitter at RSB Network. I am on Twitter at Lookner, at LOOKNER. I post about breaking news a lot if you like that kind of thing. And thank you, everybody in the chat. Thanks. Some people are saying thanks. Maria Runkle says thanks. Chad Johnson, Jason Thornton, Jessica Pearson, thank you. Tubular, Virtual Frog, Alan Reiser, Mr. What, and Jordan, P-Cell, and everybody else there in the chat room, thank you. Timberlab, Cat Food. I like the screen name Cat Food. Thank you, Radix. Thank you, Swoosh. Thank you, Summer Sunrise. DM is there too. A lot of people in the chat room tonight. Jan Wood, Jan Wood says, go back or rewatch. Maybe I'll rewatch it sometime, Jan Wood. I'm not doing it right now. Virtual Frog, thanks. Spoiler alert, did you make a donation that I missed? Carl Peterson, I think, just made another donation. Thank you so much, Carl. Spoiler alert, I apologize if I missed your super chat. I apologize. Thank you for donating. Carl says, it's a ride through the swamp. Stay the course, RSBN. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Robert Justice. Thank you, FB Live Real News. Virtual Frog, thank you. Okay, we're going to wrap this up right now. Thank you so much for joining us here at Right Side Broadcasting for this stream. We will come on soon with more news. And if there's a White House press briefing tomorrow, we will carry it. But appreciate all your comments. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate the moderators, the donators, everything else. Thank you so much. Until next time at Right Side Broadcasting, this is Steve Lookner. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you soon.